Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah insider for KSL Sports. Utah fresh off a 31-6 win at Wyoming, a game I think everybody was just happy to get out of there with the victory. We did a recap episode, which we recorded Sunday night, posted Monday morning. And if you haven't listened to that, I would recommend going back and listening to that. But want to say I appreciate everybody for tuning in to the Utah Blockcast. It was really cool to be out in Wyoming, seeing the fan base show up out in Laramie and getting to interact with a lot of fans. It's been really cool to meet a lot of you that listen to the podcast. And so from me to you, I just want to say thank you. It's really cool to meet everybody, and I'm excited for what's to come the rest of the way with the podcast this season. So looking forward to it. But on this one, this is our Tuesday episode where I basically recap Kyle Whittingham's Monday press conference and go through some of the things that stood out to me from his press conference. And so, this is our In Whitt's Words episode, and I think this one is interesting because obviously we're now into week 4, which presents a pretty big opportunity for Utah this weekend against Texas Tech. Fox coming to town with the Big Noon Kickoff show. I think everybody is excited for this game, and this should be a really exciting matchup for Utah fans. So obviously with this coming on Monday, speaking of Whittingham's press conference, there's a few things to unpack here, and we're going to talk about obviously the Big Noon Kickoff and what that means for Utah. We're going to talk about Devon Dampier, his start, and what Coach Whittingham had to say of him. We'll also talk about Jason Beck's offense and sort of this positionless style of offense that he's pioneering right now. And I think it's really cool. And Whittingham sort of acknowledged that today in his press conference. So yeah, really excited for this episode. And as always, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button wherever you are, leave a review, leave a comment, leave a 5-star rating, all of the things that you do for podcasts. It goes a long way for us, and I appreciate it. So shout out to the Utah fans that tune in each and every week, each and every episode. It's been really cool, and appreciate all of you for the support. It means a lot. So let's get to it, man. Kyle Whittingham's presser earlier today started out, talking about the Wyoming matchup, but then obviously acknowledged what this weekend means to Utah. And with Big Noon Kickoff coming to Utah, it's a significant opportunity to welcome the talent from Fox. And for the first time in program history, they've welcomed ESPN College Game Day to Salt Lake City a number of times, but this is the first opportunity for Utah to welcome Fox to Salt Lake City. So, obviously, Kyle Whittingham opened up the press conference. Big Noon Kickoff coming. It's a great opportunity, not only for our program, but the university in general. And I think that is really important. And I think this is a big moment for Utah, being on a nationally televised stage in that prime slot, that 10 a.m. slot here locally, 12 p.m. Eastern. This is the game. Everybody watching Big Noon Kickoff Monday, Saturday morning. This is the game it transitioned to. Everybody is going to be able to watch the University of Utah in Rice-Eccles Stadium. Obviously, with these pregame morning shows, there's a lot of features, a lot of stories, and I think this is really exciting for Utah to raise the brand awareness. And I tweeted this out Monday that I'm really interested, given the opportunity this weekend, to see what Utah's uniform is going to look like. It is Ute Proud Weekend, and so we've seen Utah over the years, rocked some really interesting uniforms, some really fun uniforms, and I'm interested to see what they do this weekend, given the stage and the opportunity with Fox broadcasting. And look, again, this is a really big opportunity. This is a significant chance to raise exposure, to gain exposure with the big name talent that's going to be on hand for this game. We're going to have an opportunity to meet with the talent from Fox. We're going to have an opportunity to talk to Rob Stone, Matt Leinart, Mark Ingram, Brady Quinn, and Urban Meyer. And really looking forward to that with Urban coming back. Obviously, we know the history there, and it'll be interesting to hear from him later on this week. But again, this is bigger than just having your game, in a prime time slot. This is significant for the brand of Utah, the University of Utah, Utah football, Kyle Whittingham. Every little thing is going to matter, in my opinion, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how Utah maximizes that. Utah fans showing up, you can count on them to show up and being there at that 10 a.m. kickoff to highlight that raucous environment, right? We all remember the Florida game with Prince. I'm not even going to try to say his last name; it's too long. Tweeting out about the little ass stadium. Well, you got an introduction there, and I think this is another opportunity for Utah fans to highlight just how raucous Rice Eccles Stadium can be. And so, it's about the tailgate, it's about the muss, it's about the fans just being crazy and really making an impression on the country with just how much they love Utah football. It goes so far for Utah to have these opportunities on the national stage. We talk so much about recruiting, but this also does a lot for the alumni base and to generate that excitement moving forward when you're talking about where we're at in college football with revenue being as important as it is. Every one of these opportunities matters all that much more. And so for Utah to get this opportunity this week against Texas Tech, and we're going to talk a little bit about Texas Tech here in a bit. Whittingham had some comments, obviously, about Tech. But it was announced today that Utah is going to be on Fox next week as well, with West Virginia being on the road there. And obviously, that is going to be in Morgantown. But to be on Fox in consecutive weeks, now 3 out of the first 5 weeks, I think is a really significant thing for Utah moving forward. So, obviously, Whittingham appreciated the opportunity, knows what it means, but he made it clear that they've had a lot of big games here before. They know what these mean. They've been through them, and so really looking forward again to seeing what Utah puts out there this weekend, just given the stage and the opportunity on that national stage. Next up, he talked about Texas Tech and had a lot of really great things to say. There's a lot of respect there, and talking to and listening to Coach Joey McGuire from Texas Tech. He's a coach that very personable, very charismatic. He has a lot of respect for Utah and has had a lot of really glowing things to say of Kyle Whittingham and the way that he's built his program. And Whittingham on Monday gave the Red Raiders a lot of respect. Obviously, through the first 3 games, they're putting up significant numbers. I think they're the second highest scoring offense, if not the first. I should double check that before I put that out there. But again, they are one of the most explosive, efficient offenses, doing it both through the air and on the ground with what they've done. And this is what a lot of people expected of Texas Tech, given the investment that they've made into the football program, talking about NIL and the rev share and the money that they've flooded into the program to upgrade the talent. And Kyle Whittingham said, and I quote, "They're certainly committed to winning, and good on them for being able to attract those players and get the type of players that they have. There are a lot of programs out there that want to win badly." And I thought that was interesting, right? Because what we've seen with Kyle Whittingham and the way that he's built his program, it's that old school way, recruiting and player development, right? And I think with what Tech has done, that was them for the longest time, and maximizing the talent they brought in there. But now they've had that significant investment and have brought in a significant upgrade in talent. Utah isn't something new to Utah. They've been in the Pac-12 where USC, Oregon, Washington have all had significant advantage in terms of the talent that they've had in those programs. But it's all about what you do on the field. And Kyle Whittingham, with his coaching staff, the work that they put in, not only in terms of the player development, but their schemes, their game plans, all of those things matter on Saturdays, and has led Utah to a ton of success in the college football playoff era. I believe they have a record of 53-16 at home in the college football playoff era. And that's significant. That shows that Utah is protecting their home field. And so this is a big opportunity with Texas Tech coming in. Obviously, the number 17th ranked team in the country. You've got Bayron Morton, who is, he's 57 of 81 for 923 yards, 11 touchdowns, and 1 interception. On the ground, Texas Tech has been really impressive with Adam Hill leading the way at 207 yards and 24 attempts. Cameron Dickey, 165 on 37. He's got 4 touchdowns as well. And remember, this was significant because Texas Tech lost a significant piece to that running back room in Quentin Joyner, who suffered a season-ending injury in fall camp. Texas Tech has had, running backs emerge here that have done a lot to make this a really balanced attack, which I don't think Tech got a lot of credit for last year. They were one of the most balanced programs, offenses in the Big 12 last year, with Taj Brooks running for 1,500 yards, and obviously with Bayron Morton emerging as a solid quarterback in the Big 12, throwing for 3,300 yards and 27 touchdowns. This is Joey McGuire. He wants to be a balanced team. He wants to have, that equal threat. And defensively, Joey McGuire has upgraded significantly. They've brought in significant upgrades to that defensive line with Romello Height and David Bailey. These are the 2 guys, when you're talking about Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu being first-round potential draft picks, these are the guys. This is the test. I had Ian Cummings on the show 2 weeks ago, draft analyst for PFSN, and this is what we talked about. This is the moment where Spencer Fano, Caleb Lomu, this is the test against these 2 edge rushers with who they've with the production they've got. They don't have the sacks, but man, they've got pressures. They've gotten after the quarterback pretty significantly. I believe both of them have totaled 14 pressures, and so that's significant. This is going to be a significant test for those 2. And they've also Tech has also added a lot of talent to that secondary, and so this is going to be a test for Utah's offense, given what they've done on the ground and through the air. This is going to present the toughest matchup so far. But I will say this, with what we saw Saturday against Wyoming, the physicality that program played with, I think will have Utah really well prepared for what we're going to see against Texas Tech. Obviously, they've invested in a number of big bodies, but Wyoming, man, they played tough, and I think this is going to be a big thing. So, getting back to Kyle Whittingham's comments here, a lot of respect for Texas Tech, what they've done so far through 3 games. I think he said something to the effect that you look at the numbers and they're all phenomenal. There are no weaknesses on this Texas Tech team. And again, it speaks to the amount of talent that they've brought into that program. But with the way that Kyle Whittingham, his coaching staff have gone about player development and the culture that they've built here, you feel good about Utah's ability going into this matchup, that they're not going to be scared, but instead will be looking forward to this matchup quite a bit. so yeah, I think they'll be looking forward to this one a lot. All right, let's transition to Devon Dampier. Coach Whittingham was asked how would he grade Devon Dampier so far through 3 games, and he didn't flinch. He didn't hesitate. He put it. I would give him an A plus, is what he said. And Kyle Whittingham quote here: "I give Devon Dampier an A plus, not only for what he's doing on the field, but his leadership and his impact on the team overall." And I think, this is significant, right? Because not only has Dampier provided, true dual threat ability, which has allowed the rushing attack to be as dynamic, as efficient, and as explosive as it's been through 3 weeks. But more importantly is that his presence and leadership has been exactly what Utah has needed, after the last 2 seasons. I think this is something that, we've talked about over the last few months, but Dampier's leadership has had such a huge impact on this team. With Wyoming, you're watching this clip and it kind of timely here. Nate Johnson fumbles the ball on the sideline. Nate Johnson was on the bench with the towel over his head. And what does Dampier do? He goes over to him, takes the towel off, and lifts his chin up and says, "Hey, get the next one." And I think that's the type of stuff that has been missing. Just that camaraderie, that friendship, that belief in the guys around him. I asked Devon Dampier on Monday, what's it been like having all of these guys contributing to what they're doing on the offensive side of the ball. And he kept it simple. He said, it's fun. It's fun to see everybody contributing the way that they are. He has a lot of belief in the guys around him. And I think watching him on the field, he just has the sort of presence that I think draws everybody to him, that draws the belief in him, and he gives it right back. And so, the way that the poise that he shows, the calmness that he plays with, even when things get messy, I think one of the most telling things about Dampier and his game is his performance under pressure. He hasn't been pressured a lot so far this season. He's only been pressured 16 times out of about 100 dropbacks, which again is pretty significant. But when he has been pressured, he's performed really well. I think he's 6 of 10 in terms of passing, but it's him using his legs in those moments that has really allowed him to overcome those situations. So, with Dampier, I think his performance under pressure is something that I think is really beneficial for Utah. Not only in the sense that he's escaping pressure, he's making play, but he's maximizing these opportunities. So I think, with Dampier, again, I'm pulling up the numbers here for Dampier under pressure. Yeah, so out of 99 dropbacks, he's only been pressured 16 times. He's 6 of 10 in terms of his passing, which has generated 115 yards and 1 touchdown. He's made 1 big time throw and no turnover worthy plays. In fact, he only has 1 turnover worthy play on the season so far, and that's going to be the key for him, is continuing to protect the ball and continuing to, be calm, be poised under pressure. His forced fumble recovery touchdown throw was obviously the play of the year so far for him and this offense. He was he just picked it up and let it fly, and I thought that was so impressive watching him. And so, it's that sort of confidence, that sort of poise and calmness that he plays with that I think has really had a good impact on this team. And, in talking to the players around him, I think Spencer Fano said it best, at Big 12 Media Days, that he didn't try to force it. He didn't try to be something he's not. He was just himself. He was just his own guy. And I think when you're genuine like that, that the players in that Utah program, that's the sort of personality, that's the sort of leadership that really tends to shine in the program. So I think that's been key for Dampier. I think that's been key for Utah, and I think it's hard to argue with Coach Whittingham's grade as an A+. He's put himself on Heisman watch lists already. He's leading Utah in rushing yards at 198 yards, 192 yards, whatever it is. He has just been everything as advertised. So far this season, he's been a lot of fun to watch and a lot of fun to interact with. And so I think everybody agrees that he's been an A+ player so far this season. All right. Next up. This has been an interesting one. And again, kind of timely here with Hunter Andrews just in that clip here, because he was asked about Jason Beck's offense and sort of the positionless style and brand of football that he's pioneering here with Hunter Andrews and Nate Johnson and these guys that are just sort of doing a variety of different things. They're an H-back, they're a tight end, they're a running back, they're a wide receiver, they're taking handoffs. So many guys contributing in so many different phases of the game. You've got offensive linemen playing tackle, you've got defensive tackles playing tight end. It's been a lot of fun to watch Jason Beck's offense, and he's really created problems and headaches for defensive coordinators, according to Coach Whittingham. Here's what he said. He said, and I quote, "That is a challenge for teams that sub in and sub out with different groups. Some defenses will play the same 11, which is not as big a deal, but those matchup defenses, it causes problems. And again, when you've got these positionless types of players, a Hunter Andrews who can line up out wide, he can line up in the backfield, he can line up, as an H back, as a traditional tight end. He can do all of that sort of things, and you don't know exactly where he's going to get the ball, how he's going to get the ball. And that is sort of just a difficult thing for defensive coordinators to prepare for. And it's created sort of this unique challenge and a unique flavor to his offense. It's brought that. And I think it's been a lot of fun. I've talked about this on previous episodes, but Beck's offense is the type that is pushing modern concepts and pushing the envelope with some of these modern concepts. And it's going to be highlighted by people that love the X's and O's. And we're seeing a lot of fun things with the motion, with the different formations, different personnel groupings. We watched Semi Talonga line up, in the slot and motion into, inserted into the blocking schemes. It's just there's a lot of fun things going on with Beck's offense, and you're seeing the production here because defenses don't know exactly where the ball is going to go. And it's not just Beck's scheme, but it's the quarterback Dampier who is executing it at such a high level. He has such great feel in that option look. Of giving, pulling. He's not perfect, but he's been so good in that. And I think there's another layer or two that can be added on to those option looks with the RPO. We saw a couple little instances of that true RPO, but I think that's an even bigger, more prominent thing in Beck's offense that we haven't seen just yet. So, yeah, I think this positionless football, it is a thing for Beck. And I asked Coach Beck about that, not necessarily positionless, but I asked him sort of his approach to offensive balance. Mike Leach had the quote that 50% run versus 50% pass is 50% stupidity. And that was a comment in regards to balance. And Mike Leach always sort of viewed offensive balance being balance between players and positions, not so much run versus pass. And I think Beck has brought a little bit to that. When you look at some of the numbers, the production numbers in terms of how many guys are involved in the offense, how many guys are getting snaps, sort of the the number of carries guys are getting, and the distribution of those targets, the distribution of those carries, I think speaks to sort of Beck having that same sort of mindset that balance is more between the players and the positions than just run versus pass. And having that option, that true option with Devon Dampier, I think is kind of the key there to it all. And having him, his decision making has been really, really great. And it's going to have to continue to be great to keep this offense performing at the level that it is. So yeah, I think Beck's offense has been a lot of fun to dive into. And I think Whittingham definitely talked about that being a thing, being a problem for defensive coordinators. I think that's 100% spot on. All right. And then the last thing here, Rabbit Evans. If you watch the game, you watch the replay, pretty gruesome injury. And Coach Whittingham confirmed today that Rabbit Evans is lost for the season. Rabbit is somebody that we didn't get to see this season. He didn't play in the first two games and only played a couple of snaps in against Wyoming before he suffered his injury. And it's unfortunate because even though we didn't get to see him on the field, expectations were high for Rabbit. He had a tremendous spring where he showcased a lot of ability and a lot of playmaking instincts that I think reminded coaches of great safeties of the past. The Sione Vakis, the uh, the Blairs. Why am I blanking on his name? Blair. He's gonna kill me. Oh my gosh, he's gonna. Oh man, I'm blanking. How am I blanking on Blair's name? Oh my gosh, I've got to look it up. I'm gonna. This is so crazy that I can't remember it. Marquise Blair. Oh my gosh. I kept thinking Maurice and I knew that that wasn't it. But anyways, back to Rabbit. That is who he was reminding the coaches of. Was safeties of that caliber, of that style, the versatile types that can play in the box, that can play with physicality, could play great coverage. That is sort of what they saw in spring ball. The light came on, as Kyle Whittingham would put it, and unfortunately the injuries um, limited him, didn't allow him to play in the first two games, and then ultimately he suffered the season-ending injury on on Saturday, which was super unfortunate. And you could see how much Rabbit means to his teammates as they gathered around him as Rabbit was being lifted into the cart. You could see that they all went out there, shared a moment with him, which I think speaks to the team chemistry and camaraderie this season. And the good news here is that Rabbit had surgery today. He posted about it on his social media. And so this is going to be a significant road to recovery for him. Fortunately, it's not the type of season-ending injury that is, the year-long type of injury. But still, I think this is going to be a long road, and with how that injury occurred, there is going to be a little bit of a mental hurdle for him, I'm sure, but still it's good to see Rabbit. He had surgery, he called it a success, and I think now is, obviously he's on the road to recovery here. And so we all hope for the best for Rabbit. It sounds like he's already made it clear that he's going to be coming back stronger. And Whittingham said that that's the silver lining for him is, he's going to get a red shirt, and he's going to likely be coming back next season. And so, that's big for Utah next year. Now, with that being said, Utah has to fill those shoes this season. And I think it's largely going to fall on the shoulders of Nate Ritchie. And I think what we all know and kind of understand with Nate so far this season is that it's been a mixed bag. And missed tackles have been sort of his bugaboo, not just this season, but over the last two seasons as well. Nate Ritchie was an absolute dog in 2020. He showed the playmaking instincts, showed the physicality, the athleticism. He returned from his mission, unfortunately, with a back injury that I think has just hindered him and he hasn't been able to get back to that 2020 form. But I think now with this opportunity in front of him, he is the guy. He has to step up. And Kyle Whittingham said as much, that he has to step up. He has to improve the tackling. And that's going to be the key for him. So far through 3 games, he's been credited with 4 missed tackles. He leads the team in missed tackles. But I think there's still things that Utah fans should feel really good about. He's been solid in coverage. He's limited the targets to less than 60% completion percentage. And I think for him, for Nate, this is going to be big for him. These first two weeks, Texas Tech, West Virginia, a big test this weekend against Texas Tech. He's got to be on his P's and Q's. He's got to be on his toes. He's got to be mindful of everything. I hope that Nate puts in the work and capitalizes on this opportunity because he is still a very good player. And Kyle Whittingham reaffirmed as much, saying that he's a great player. It's just there have been too many missed tackles. So this is going to be the key for him. It's going to be on Nate. Behind him, they've got other guys, Nate Tillman, Brock Fenoy Moana. They've also got, Manny Fuller, who's a true freshman who, I'm not sure is ready to play. And then you've also got Jackson Benny that could probably factor into the mix as well. But this is going to be on Nate Ritchie to step up and become the safety that we all remember in 2020, right? That's the Nate that we all know can ball, can do those things, and I think that's going to be the key for him over these next couple weeks is regaining that sort of confidence, the playmaking instincts to be that dude. That's what Utah fans want to see from him, and so Kyle Whittingham called him on it, and so we'll see. I think this is going to be the big test, but that's what I've got for you guys on this one. I appreciate everybody for tuning into the Utah Blockcast. I'll be back on it with tomorrow. I'm trying to get a Texas Tech guy on, but I'm not sure any of the Texas Tech media members want to come on this Utah media side of things. So we'll see. But appreciate everybody for tuning in. We'll be back at it tomorrow with another episode. And yeah,